Hi, welcome to my garden. I'm going to start doing a weekly garden tour on Friday evenings as a way for me to keep track of the progress that I'm making this season in the garden. There are some definite themes to the garden this year. One is overgrown evergreens. So I talked on my Instagram channel about wanting to do something about the overgrown arborvitae. And I'm going to have to do something. I don't have to do something. I want to do something about these arborvitae. They're just too large for their space. I should have probably pruned them up better than I did, and they just look so huge now. So I want to try to do something about that. Also the turf in the backyard, because it is so shady. The turf has really taken a beating. So I'm thinking about maybe adding some patio blocks or something in the areas where the grass doesn't grow very well. The other issue that I've got is just a lot of deer damage, especially with this arborvitae hedge. It's almost heartbreaking when I look at it. You can see that it is thin. I can see through it. This hedge is likely going to need to be replaced, but that is definitely not on the budget this year. But that's just something I wanted to share because that's the truth. This hedge is older now and it's not really in very great health. And that's just something to think about. All right, so I'm going to start the tour just walking through the Mary Garden. This is my shade border. It's really shady during the season because we've got these huge white pine trees that were planted when we moved into the property. And the purpose of the garden tours this season is I really want to show what the garden really looks like, not prepare it and have you only see the good parts. So one of the new things that I've added here in the past year is this garden path, and I really like it. It's added a lot of character, I think, to this area. These were just leftover boxwood from different areas in the garden. They weren't super healthy. I wanted to move them into a more sunny location to see if I could get them to perk up a bit. So this is going to be something I'm going to be looking at this season to see if I can improve the health of these boxwood. If not, they will get moved someplace else and I'll put something else in here. The Japanese lace leaf maple is starting to sprout its new leaves, which is going to be a beautiful sight to see. I'm excited to see that plant this season. And we did get it's beautiful, isn't it? A new generator, because we lose power here in Michigan a lot. And then if I open up the garden gate, this just takes us to the side border. And this is also a work in progress. I want to add another set of patio blocks here. So this is the entrance to the side yard. One of the things I want to try to see if I can deal with this season is my garden hose. You can see that monster. It looks like it's supposed to be kink-free, but I swear I've never found a non-kinking garden hose yet. So if anybody has any recommendations, hit me up in the comments. I'd love to hear what you got. And then this is just what it looks like when you walk into the backyard from the side yard. I do want to focus on really getting a lot more plant material inside of the woodland border here. This is the red leaf dogwood that I trimmed up. I have a video on that if you are interested in seeing how I prune that. And then this is simply the boxwood hedges and the fountain. The fountain is still under cover. It's still, getting pretty cold here. So the turf is starting to grow and things are starting to green up. So this is always an exciting time of the year. So last year I did install some steel edging. I love it. It's working out great. You can see that ajuga that I planted in between the boxwoods is just starting to poke its head up. And I've got some really severely damaged turf here that I'm going to be working on repairing a little bit later. So this is just the other side of the backyard, and again I want to deal with those overgrown arborvitae and start working on changing the planting on the inside of each of the borders. Now, I'm going to share that one of my biggest regrets ever was planting alliums. And I know people are going to be surprised to hear me say that, but look at this disastrous. That is all alliums that have gone wild in there. They'll look pretty, they'll look pretty when they bloom, but they don't bloom that long, and what a mess. So I am definitely, after this season, I've talked about this for 2 years, but after this season, I am digging those things out of there. And I've got the same problem with the alliums on the other side of the border too. I just think these look so untidy. I love the blooms, but the foliage is just ridiculous. I got to figure out either how to hide that foliage, or I'm going to be getting rid of those alliums. This is simply the other side of the yard. I've got a white lilac that's just starting to have the leaves bloom out, which is nice to see. And we've got the 2 new Japanese maple trees that were planted last season. The leaves are just starting to poke out on there. And it's just a beautiful day here. So I'm going to be planning on when the weather gets warmer, I want to really prune back hard these boxwood hedges, kind of get them into a smaller form, especially the boxwood that are around the fountain area. So my plan here is that the boxwood that are on the outside, I'm probably going to remove at least 1/3 of the height, if not half of the height there. I'm willing to take the risk. I want to be able to plant flowers in the inside of that circle and have you be able to see them, which you can't right now. And I'm looking forward to getting the fountain uncovered, which is always a fun time of the year, but it's still a little bit cold for that. One of the things that I want to talk about, and you know what, hit me up in the comments if you have any suggestions here. One of the things I struggle with is, where do you store all of your extra stuff that needs to be overwintered? Your pots, your garden furniture, all that stuff. Like, how do you store that on your patio without it looking like a complete and utter disaster? So this is the area where I store a lot of stuff, and look at what a disaster it is. So one of the things I really want to do this year is figure out how to make this area look cool and still use it for storage. I mean, you can see I've got I've got the garden furniture here. I've got pots that need to be, protected for the winter time. I've got this big ugly plastic container. But I'm certain that I can have storage in this area and still have it look cool. So that's one of my challenges for this season. So I still have Christmas stuff on the patio that will be going away soon, obviously. But there's another view of the new woodland border, and I am excited to see those spring bulbs. Another theme that is running through my garden is turf problems. This area here is super high traffic, and turf is not going to work here. So this year I am going to be putting some patio blocks down here so that I can create a path that'll go all the way through to the side yard. And so this will all be created into a path. And then this side yard is where I have my wayside shrine, which is right there. I love my little St. Francis. So now we walk along the other side yard here, and let me open up the fence. And this is going to be where you're going to see my other challenge with a few things. Now, this is a new area where we had the pine tree removed, and I'm working on a new flower bed. You can see all these bricks that were beautifully lining the side, but what I learned this season was that they were preventing the water from moving. So I need to reevaluate how I've got this. This is not level. It's trying to move water towards the house. So I am going to be digging a French drain. So this thing here is going to go away. All right, so if you walk along the front here, so here we are in the front border. These are all the new daffodils that I planted last season. They're poking their heads up and they look great. I love this pheasant eye daffodil. It's very pretty. Very nice to have that in the garden. So the new island border is looking good. It's looking a bit sparse, and I'm looking forward to filling that up with more plants this season. But it looks like everything made it through the winter okay, which is always a nice thing to see. The grass is starting to green up and things are starting to poke their heads out. This is a new border that I planted. It's way too small. This is actually going to be a full sun border and I'm excited about it. I did plant some daffodil bulbs in here, some iris that's starting to poke its heads up. I've got some yarrow and some sun-loving plants. My plan here is to expand this. So this is the front of our house. So this is the new island border that I installed last season. And I also installed this tiny little, this is as close to full sun as I get. And I decided that I really want to make this a lot bigger and expand this out this season. So that's one of the things that I'm going to be working on. And this border up here is super low maintenance up by the house. So this is a chartreuse leaf colored 9-bark. And we've got some lavender and boxwood. This is a high deer area here. We've got high traffic of deer. So I love these chartreuse leaved 9-bark. They actually look like forsythia to me. And they go well with the chartreuse colored barberry bushes that are here. So this is a great deer resistant planting. And this is the other side of that border on the side of the house. Again, you can see my favorite hose, my neighbors, hello. So I'll be shaping up these barberry this year, and this is just a great low maintenance, deer resistant planting scheme here. I'm looking forward to filling up the urns that are on the porch and also the window boxes. And this big, huge area here is new. I want to fill this area in with coleus. This is going to be a shady area. And it's so much larger than it was. I expanded this bed and I'm looking forward to filling it up this season. That's all for this video. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you in the next one.